Good afternoon to all distinguished guests on the dais, off the dais, dear students, scholars, and dignitaries from various parts of the country. It is my completely research paper in finance. How this paper is connected to SDG goals. SDG goal number 8, which tells about the decent economic work, the decent economic growth in the country and also across the globe. This is the goal we have to achieve through financial discipline and curbing the financial terrorism across the country. This financial terrorism and financing terrorism activities are the major challenges for the global economies and respective countries' economies. So my paper is a bit connected with SDG goals, that is goal number 8, economic growth, a systematic economic growth, where it tells about the equitable distribution of economic resources for all the sections of people. The economic resources should not go into the hands of few people. But actually happening is the major chunk of the economic resources goes into the hands of the very few people who control the markets. It may be international markets or national markets or capital markets. So the whole idea of this paper is how to curb the financing terrorism. It may take in various forms. Financial terrorism takes multiple ways. There is no particular definition to define the financial terrorism. Even in India also, financial terrorism is happening much rampantly. Recently, on our Indian economy, the world advanced economies also, in one form or other form, doing this terrorism, financial terrorism, means targeting our economy. Okay, here the paper is connected SDG goal number 8. My topic is my topic is how to protect the anti-money laundering. Anti-money laundering is defined as a set of rules which are prescribed by the international financial agencies and national financial agencies and regulatory bodies. This is very, very need of the hour across the globe and respective countries' economies. Unless we control the money laundering, the SDG goal, equitable distribution of economic resources, will not take place. And no industry will achieve the growth which is expected. So this is the aim of this paper, and the very aim of this paper is how to tackle the defensive mechanism for handling these money laundering activities which are happening across the country. As I said, my paper is systematically done in a research way. So here, I want to tell about the FATF, Financial Action Task Force, which is intergovernmental body agency, which is established by international agencies, financial agencies. Its main function is to regulate the countries which are under the risk for the money laundering activities. So they prescribed 40 recommendations to regulate the money laundering activities across especially for third countries. Third countries the list is identified by 3ZA, 40 countries are there. Among those 40 countries, 20 countries are identified are highly vulnerable and risky countries in not minimizing or stopping the money laundering activities. This is the outcome of this paper, but how I did with the sample data, you will get to know. So I already covered how the paper is connected to SDG means equitable distribution of economic resources. Here the role of BPS means designated non-financial business professionals. Who are they? They are chartered accountants, lawyers, company secretaries, jewelers, real estate traders. Most of the economic resources are transforming or translating with this non-designated business professionals. So their role is very crucial in preventing the money laundering activities. If they are not doing well their job with professional ethics and honest and integrity, economy is a gone case. So they are the non-financial. Their motto is not profit motto. They have to regulate. Simply, they have to act as watchdog of the economic resources. If dog is not alert, everybody trying to, in their own way, to loot the economic resources of the country or the world. Just you can try to understand how this financial system is aligning with the SDG goals, because the SDG goals can be achieved through this retail investors and other business segments, and how this financial flow is taking place is also important. Definitely it will impact the trade and business. So there are 40 countries. Most of the countries from Africa and Europe, Asia, and this one, America also. I already said money laundering means it's a process converting the illegal money or dirty money into most legitimate way without geoparadising their source. This is happening rampantly across the country. Money laundering. We come across the newspapers, every day one scam. Anti-money laundering is set certain rules or regulations by international agencies to regulate this money laundering across the globe, to harmonize the financial system across the globe. My objectives of the study are to understand the concept of high-risk countries. I already told 40 countries are there, but out of 40 countries, 20 countries I identified based on the sample data analysis. Okay, I already talked about the FATF. To evaluate the technical requirements of anti-money laundering or counter-financing terrorism system on the implementation of 40 recommendations made by the FATF. It's an intergovernmental body. There are so many countries listed in this association. This association aims at tracking, monitoring their compliance with the recommendations, what extent they complied with the regulations. And finally, the third objective, evaluate the compliance of the anti-money laundering rules and regulations. Methodology. So I already said that my paper is a pure research paper. In this discussion, there is no articulation, there is no falsification. All factual information is provided here. My population is here, world high-risk countries which are identified by 3ZA by FATF, Financial Action Task Force, as per the 2017. This is the secondary data. The secondary data is retrieved from the web portals of the FATF for 2021 and 2021 year. I retrieved the data. The data is in the form of mutual evaluation reports by the FATF and other agencies in that third country, and also follow-up reports. What they are identified, what risks are there identified, how they are follow-up. These two reports are the input data for me for 2020-21, the sample data. Okay, and the sample size is 20 countries based on the high risk, is the criteria. And variables are 40 recommendations and 11 immediate outcomes, means key goals, which are prescribed by the FATF. The measurements, how these variables are measured with 5-point Likert scale. The researchers aware of that, what is Likert scale. Likert scale is a measurement which measure the variables or constructs of the study on the 5-point scale. 1 is low, 5 is high, 3 is medium, neutral. And which statistical test I have applied here? The one sample t-test, because here our sample is only one sample from 2021 about the third countries, about the risk country. And test value. So on 1 to 5-point scale, the benchmark is fourth. Fourth means largely effective, means the regulations are very largely effective. Fifth means highly effective. Third means neutral. 2 means partially. 1 means not at all effective. Those FATF recommendations on the third world countries to minimize the vulnerability of the money laundering practices, which happens rampantly across the third countries. So this is about methodology. As per this methodology, strictly my paper goes. Yes. But before interpreting, generalizing the sample data, I made 2 hypotheses. The first hypothesis is there are minor shortcomings on the implementation of FATF recommendations and also on 11 immediate key goals. Okay, and alternative hypothesis, there are major shortcomings. And the second hypothesis is that moderate improvements not required for effective control on immediate outcomes and also on AML compliance in the high-risk countries. So these are the 2 hypotheses. I am validating these 2 hypotheses based on the sample data analysis. So here, 40 recommendations are there. The area of recommendations are divided into 5 parameters. Policies and coordination, proliferation of terrorist financing, preventive measures, transparency and beneficial ownership, powers and responsibility of competent authority, international cooperation. Okay, so these are the areas. So the first one is policies and coordination, where minor shortcomings not there. So here the range of recommendations, recommendation 1 to 4, but recommendation 1 is assessing risks, where there are major shortcomings, means the compliance is not happen properly as per the guidelines of FATF, but rest all the recommendations like R2, that is national cooperation, okay, and money laundering offense, confiscation and provisional measures are some extent largely practiced and effective, but coming to this assessing risks is not properly happening. Assessing risks means quantification of risk is not complied with. This is a major shortcoming. So in this case, the null hypothesis is rejected and alternative hypothesis is accepted. Means there are major shortcomings with respect to the quantifying the risks, right? And coming to the proliferation of terrorist financing, there are recommendations ranging from R5 to R8, but out of these, only R8, which is non-profit organizations. So as far as concerned to the non-profit organizations in third countries, the compliance is not properly done. Means whatever the recommendations given by FATF, they are not complied with. This is the major area of concern. It has to be addressed by FATF and immediately reporting to the international agencies for taking actions and sanctions not fulfilling the recommendations. And coming to the preventive measures, R9 to R22, but R9 is the major shortcoming. So all R10 to R22, the shortcomings are very less and negligible. But coming to the R9, it is very serious concern for third countries to address this immediately. Sooner or later, the suggestions given by the FATF, they have to, make it feasible and possible. And transparency of beneficial ownership. Here the recommendations are given by FATF 23 to 24. But 23 is okay, they are following, they are complying the 23 recommendations. But comes to the 24 recommendation, what is that? Transparency and beneficial ownership of legal persons is not complied as prescribed by the FATF. Because in money laundering, so these are important areas of concern. What is that? Transparency and beneficial ownership of legal person status should be, reported immediately. So that is not happening. And powers and responsibilities of competent authority. This one, 25 to 35, but where 25, 26 and 28, with respect to these three recommendations, the third countries are not complying properly. Very leastly effective, not much effective. It's not highly effective. So these are the areas. So where the financial institutions and RBI of respective country or central bank of respective countries, should take care and insist the corrective measures to normalize the transactions, financial transactions in the economy. And international cooperation with respect to this parameter, 36 to 40 recommendations are made by FATF. But as far as concerned to 38 and 40, only the major shortcomings, rest all recommendations the countries are comply with. So here also the respective FATF and other associate groups have to suggest the measures, and if offences, financial transactions offences are very serious, and they have power to give the sanctions on those countries. They have the power. FATF has the power to award the sanctions. And next 11 key immediate outcomes. These are expected by the FATF. So here the key goals are immediate outcomes on the money laundering transactions across these third countries made here for all 11 except one, that is immediate outcome 1. What is that immediate outcome 1? Actions on money laundering task force risks is only the area where the improvement is required, which is suggested by the FATF. Rest all immediate outcomes, are fulfilled and complied by these third countries. My major findings of this research paper are: one is financial institutions are very slow in reporting suspicious transactions to the respective financial regulatories in the respective countries. And financial intelligence is not properly used by the competent authorities in unearthing the financial suspicious transactions. Though the technology is very much, but unfortunately the competent authorities or the financial systems are not able to use the technology in identifying the suspicious transactions well in advance, rather than happening much damage to the economy. And sanctions on miscreants are very unfair. So just leave. Whoever the culprits are financial criminals, the judiciary system of respective those third countries are not fair, and their sanctions are not fair, and their stringent rules are not working much, in improving this money laundering activities across these countries. And finally, immediate action should be initiated on them. Means the FATF has to call all 20 countries immediately and award the sanctions on them. Otherwise, this virus, this financial terrorism, will go into the nook and breadth of the economic systems, respective economic systems. So here, the role of this FATF and other associates who are working in third countries like Asian Pacific Group and FATF are the key instrumental organizations in minimizing these money laundering activities and curbing the financial terrorism and stopping the financing the terrorist activities across the globe. So if this is not stopped, the equitable distribution of economic resources will not be possible, and majority or major chunk of the economic resources are goes into the hands of the very people who are controlling the market, national markets and international markets. This is a very dangerous situation for all the economics who are at the verge of this money laundering, virus. So this is my suggestion for the international organizations. I'm stop here. It's open for questions based on the research paper. Thank you, sir, giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much, sir, for your applaud. Yeah. Any questions? Any small questions also? Small doubts also, no problem. You need not be a researcher in this particular, very novel research area, money laundering. Most of the students may not know aware of the money laundering. Means money laundering, I repeat, making dirty money into clean money. It takes millions of firms across the globe. This is the biggest challenge for the world economy and respective countries' economies. Sir, thank you, sir.